So, Nathan, your career in the saddle lasted, I suppose, a relatively short time, about a decade. And you've admitted to suffering mental health issues yourself. I mean, were they as a direct result of being a jockey?
I wouldn't say they were a direct result of being a jockey, but I would definitely say they were a weight that added to my own, downfall of my mental health state. It was, there's certain things had happened, as a kid, being coming from a broken home, my mum leaving at, an early age and, being brought up by my dad on my own, for a certain amount of time. Um, I had two sisters that died. One drowned. One died of anorexia. All these like little things that happened to me as a kid would then later on, resurface themselves later on in life. But the pressures of being a jockey that really do take its toll. And also we're at the time of when AP McCoy had all of a sudden raised the bar so high, mental toughness, physical toughness. You'll hear it all the time, Sam, and I'm guilty of saying this, often as, jockeys are tough, jump jockeys are really tough people. Michael Caulfield, who's a sports psychologist, I remember him saying that, if he was ever going to war, he'd have a jump jockey by his side, and that's a heavy burden to carry if you're not built that way. If you're built that way, that's fine. But if you're not built that way, you've then got to bring that persona to the sport. You can't show any weakness. No chinks in your armor, because otherwise someone's going to take your place, or the sport's going to think of you as weak. And I was probably not built that way. In fact, I know I wasn't built that way, and those things would take their toll. Certain trainers I would ride for would would let me know they weren't happy with my performance. And which is fine, but sometimes I just think it was a little bit. It was handled probably wrong, and I had nowhere to go at the time. So, later on in life, going through divorce and all these other things that would then hurt my mental state, it led me to a place that I didn't think I'd ever get to, really. I remember saying this same thing, I can't understand why somebody would want to commit suicide. Why would they? I've never, ever felt like that till I felt like that, that day, wanting just to give up and just not want to wake up and just not want to be here anymore, which is it was a terrible thing to go through. And through that therapy, through that me getting help and me surviving this this tragic day that I went through, came this idea through the fall. It was this story that I'd written was a way of therapy, really, and it's been a really cathartic journey going through this whole process. And I've had some great feedback from this film coming out, and I think it might help some people.
Now, you said there that jockeys are sort of by nature very tough. Do you think that built-in hardness is a bigger obstacle than most professions, for people that should really be seeking help?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. It's because, through most sports, there's a team environment. Now, the only team environment you have in racing, really, is being particularly a jockey, is the weighing room. So when you're in the weighing room, that's your team. Even though they are competitors, they all want to take your ride. They all want to ride more winners than you. However, there's a camaraderie in there. After that, when you leave that room, that's when you're a competitor and you've got to beat the person next to you. And as jockeys, you're beaten on, if you're lucky, you're running at a 10% or a 15% strike rate. Now, if that was a football team, there's an issue there. The manager's getting sacked or something's happening, and you're getting beaten most of the time, and that does take its toll on you. So you're forever trying to do the best, and then there's a gambling element that brings itself into racing. That causes friction, and or opinions, of jockeys' rides and whatnot. So there's a lot of pressure on being a jockey compared to other sports people because of the team environment. It's very hard. Even to just take, for instance, the agent thing that happens. Jockeys' agents generally look after other jockeys. They don't just look after that one jockey. So, your agent, you're thinking is doing the best for you, but might not be doing the best for you, might be doing the best for the other guy next to you. And that can be a hard thing. So you're constantly trying not to burn any bridges because you want to be riding for, the trainer or the owner that you're going to be riding for. And it just that brings a lot of pressure to a jockey, I think, compared to other sports.
Ken, I was always do a bit of, the research in this interview. I found some quite shocking statistics. I mean, obviously, you find statistics on the internet, you don't know if they're right or not, but it says that over 50% of jockeys admit to suffering from some sort of mental health issue, be it stress or much worse. I mean, have you sort of seen those figures? Have you been privy to those sort of figures?
I have, yeah. No, I did a lot of research leading up to the film, and it was that I think that number is probably higher. There's a lot of stigma behind mental health. I see it daily. Another company that I run is Jockey Cam, and I'm forever in the jockeys changing rooms around the world, and I can see somebody that's suffering, because that's their sanctuary. They can let their hair down in there in the changing room, they can kind of let the guard down, take the mask off, and you can see somebody when someone's struggling. So I think that number is probably needs to be higher, but it's great that people are admitting that they're suffering with it if they are. And it's great that like the Professional Jockeys Association have teamed up with the likes of Sporting Chance, which has been started up by Tony Adams, and they're getting help on that side of things. And then the Injured Jockeys Fund are working with Mind, so there is a place to go now. There was nowhere to go when I was suffering with this, and I found my own way of getting help. Unfortunately, James Banks wasn't getting any help. And unfortunately we lost James, but Liam Treadwell was getting help from the PGA, and unfortunately that didn't really help Liam. But I think if we have the conversation, which is what this film is about, it's about having a conversation and about starting to talk about it. So it's great that jockeys or sports people are talking about mental health issues and trying to get rid of this stigma.
And also relating to the film, of course, a big part of it was the social media abuse. The other statistic I read, 86% have had online abuse. Well, that's pretty shocking, isn't it? Considering how many jockeys there are.
Yeah, and this was a study done by Hannah Walker from Cirencester University. That was one of the stats that we took from her. Thankfully she was able to give us some of this data, and I think it was 87% would be perceived as severe. So it's not just saying, "Oh, you've given that a bad ride." 87% of this stuff was really, really nasty stuff. I hope you die on the way home. Or I hope your kids get cancer. Just disgusting stuff. And like I say, I don't think this is the reason why jockeys are suffering from mental health. I think it could be the tipping point, because there are other pressures that probably need to be looked at. But if anything, I hope this film highlights a conversation like we're having this conversation now, Simon. We wouldn't have done this 10 years ago, probably. So it's great that we can talk about it and try and get rid of this stigma around mental health and depression.
Yeah. Now, have you had any? The film's been out a couple of weeks. I saw the premiere on at the races. Has there been any direct feedback from jockeys since then?
There's been a lot of feedback from jockeys. A lot of it was, thank you for making it. It really highlights how I felt. It feels very authentic, which was a big tick in the box for me. I wanted it to feel authentic, for those guys. But also the public perception has been great as well. I had no idea that goes on. I didn't realize that they'd suffered from, this, and we don't see jockeys as human. What the best one was, we didn't see jockeys as human. Well, that's the point. They are humans. They have real problems, just like all of us. Just try and be a little kinder when we're thinking about sending something or saying something or acting on something. Like the owners do in the film. We're just getting rid of a guy just because he's had a bad day. So. I think if anything, it's really highlighted the fact that we just need to be a little kinder to each other, and the feedback's been absolutely amazing. Richard Kingscote actually sent me a great message. There's a scene in the movie where Emily needs to go to hospital, who's Tom's partner in the film, for a scan, and he says, "Oh, do you want me to go?" Knowing he can't go, but says it anyway. And I remember Richard Kingscote saying that was me. I remember I couldn't go to my wife's scan for the baby because I had I had 3-4 rides that day. That's a pressure not a lot of us are under. We can't miss a ride because it's not just that ride that day, it's the ride you're going to be getting in the future. And that's, like I said earlier, you're trying not to burn any bridges in life, and that comes with a huge amount of pressure. So I think that was a key thing for me that, a lot of jockeys have come back saying, that happened to me, or, that highlighted that fact and made me think twice about, what I've got to try and, make sure is important in life, I'm glad it started the conversation.
Now that the fall was ultimately a sort of a subtle and positive message. I mean, I saw the build up to it, and I was half expecting some sort of shocking and tragic sort of ending. But was it tempting to have gone down that road, to have grabbed the headlines and the shock value?
Yeah, I mean, writing it, I just wanted to show some sort of humanity, and obviously I wanted to show some suffering. Tom's character does suffer in this film, and he does contemplate suicide, but thankfully he's able to snap out of it. Now, unfortunately, he might not be able to snap out of it, in 2 weeks' time. His character in the film might not be able to snap out into his time. So the point of the film is to show some suffering, but show that he's fighting that suffering, but he's on a knife edge. He could fall either side, and he needs to get help. But like me being the person I have, the positive person that I've always have been, Simon, I wanted to show some hope in it as well. Even though there are dark times, there is hope. I'm lucky enough to still be here talking about it. Lucky enough I didn't go through. I should say I did go through it, but I survived it, and I'm able to talk about it. My father hasn't lost another child. My mother hasn't lost another child. So they were able to be thankful that I'm still here, and I wanted to show that in the film, that there is hope. But you also need to have hope. You need to get help, and that's kind of what I wanted to show in the film.
If you had a bigger budget, was there a lot more that you would like to have said, or did you think you've condensed it, that you're happy with it?
Well, I'm really happy with what we've managed to get in with that, within the 20 minutes. And shorts are like that, they're very hard to condense a story into a short film. So I'm desperate to make a longer version of this, to give the character more depth of how he got there and where he's going. So I'm still writing that, and maybe one day, someone will want to see what that story's like, and maybe one of the major platforms would be happy to give me a budget to go and make that film. But I've got a real taste for this now, Simon. It's like I said, it was my first drama. I've made documentaries before, and some of them have been lucky enough to win awards. So this film is my first drama, but like I say, I've got a real taste for it now, and I want to go and tell larger stories, and in particular around horse racing, which is my passion, my love. And I really want to open the doors and show people outside the racing bubble, what a great sport this can be. But it does have its issues that need addressing, and this is one of them.
Now, you've positioned yourself in a very good place to try and get to that position by moving to California, where, of course, Hollywood is. Is that why you're there?
It isn't actually, no. I mean, unfortunately, it's a bit of a sad story while we're here. I married an American, and her daughter wasn't allowed to come and live in the UK with us because of the UK immigration laws, which is a real shame. It's we had a good school teacher, living in the UK, my wife, and the UK was benefiting from her positivity, and because of our the immigration laws, she wasn't allowed to come and live in the UK. So we bit the bullet and moved here to California, and it was a bit of a gamble really through through COVID, because nobody knew what was going to be, if we were ever going to come out of the other end of it. But thankfully, Jockey Cam, which is one of our sister companies to Equine Productions, is doing really well out here. We've been doing Del Mar for the last 11 weeks. We're just finishing off here in Keeneland in this next weekend, and then we've got the Breeders' Cup coming up, which is a huge event for us. So we're looking forward to doing that, and also got some exciting projects coming up that we're that we're going to be really excited to tell people about.
Anything you can give us a sneak preview of?
Well, one we've already kind of given a sneak preview of is we've been following Andrew Balding and Oisin Murphy for the last year and a half, filming their journey and the journey of Kingsclear, the stable. We believe we've got a really, really great narrative to tell, and we're just finishing up the episodes, tying all those together, because we a year and a half of footage takes a lot of time to tell the narrative, but I feel as though we've got a great story, a great start, middle, and a wonderful ending to it. So I'm really excited to piece this together, and we're currently in discussions with some, I can't mention any names, some major platforms. I'm sure some people can guess about this story, and we're really excited about getting this out there and showing, the true side of what I think the wider public should see about horse racing. The love and the care that goes into these animals, and just what a great sport this can be. The ups and the downs. We've seen it with Oisin Murphy over the last the last year. He's a guy that's I think has had his flaws, but also has had his pressures that put on him. And as a young guy, we forget that sometimes. I just forget. Sometimes we haven't been given the tools to deal with things in the right way. And he's a good guy deep down, and he really wants to be a great champion, which I think he is. And to do it 3 times is amazing, because it takes a lot out of people, this championship. And William Buick, who's handled this whole thing with a lot of class, will eventually be champion jockey, because I think we've got a real star-studded table of jockeys coming through right now, and it's they're ready to take the mantle away from Franco Dettori, who's been a gift for us for many years.
Excellent. Well, on that optimistic note, Nathan, thanks very much for talking to us. Congratulations on the fall, and we look forward to seeing what comes next.
Thank you, Simon. No, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't seen the fall yet, it's still on Sky On Demand. Just type in the fall, and it should pop up. And it's also on the At the Races website. So would love to know your thoughts on it. And let's hope we can all be a little kinder to each other.
Brilliant. And on that note, thank you very much, Nathan. Cheers.